Good morning, everyone. My name is Sumitra, and I'm working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Biotechnology, CBIT. Well, today I consider it my privilege and honor to welcome all the dignitaries onto this platform for this 1 week webinar cum FDP series on current progress and future prospects of biotechnology. So firstly, I request Srimati D. Sandhishri ma'am, member and chairperson DNP CBIT, to share her thoughts and words of wisdom. Ma'am, I kindly request you to take over.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 1 week webinar come faculty development program series with the theme of current progress and future prospects of biotechnology, being organized by CBIT, Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology, in association with Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences. I have many questions, in fact, and some of them are, instead of meeting in person, many of the people, instead of meeting in person, many of the people are meeting online. Why? First of all, answer is very known answer. In fact, due to the COVID-19 crisis, we are all meeting online. So why did it happen? First of all, why did it happen? This itself, that our theme lies here. Our theme is here. In fact, we have a lot of prospects. In fact, we are having a lot of, see, necessity is mother of invention. This COVID is global crisis now. What do we have to do? Nothing. Now the necessity is to invent the medicine. So necessity is mother of invention has again come into the play. We have a lot of prospects. So the title itself says there are prospects in future, lot of them. But why did it happen? Why all these kind of things are happening? Why suddenly we never expected something like this will happen to us. But why did it happen? Because we have not understood the nature properly. We always keep interfering with nature. The man's interference with nature creates all the troubles. These troubles in turn creates opportunities for biotechnology. This is the cycle, in fact. And the interference should be to such extent where it should not become a pandemic, in fact. It should become a virus, which is just a normal virus. But when the interference becomes too much, without understanding the process of nature, what is nature? Nature is nothing but what is not man-made is nature. It has got its own processes. If you look at the land, it has got its own ecosystem. The soil, the water, it has got its own ecosystem. Like the river has its own pond, the sea. All these have their own ecosystems. These are all the natural processes which are happening on Earth. And the winds which cause rain, that's also a great ecosystem, which we always interfere and spoil the cycle. So a man should interfere first in such a way that he doesn't, interrupt with this natural process that is happening in the universe. Sometimes they'll reach the planets and stop the planets also, if they start continuously doing this kind of mischief. Interference, I don't have to explain. There are so many what man does, so many what man does with the nature. He interferes too much. I mean, to such an extent where it becomes a pandemic kind, like COVID-19 is one such example. And I feel biotechnology word is, I think the subject itself is the subject. It's the subject, I feel. And there are two great things in the world which always, inspire me or surprise me. These two are the space, when I look up, still I don't understand what's happening up there. What are we? Where are we on this earth? What is our magnitude on this earth? We're so small when compared to this universe. That's the number one. And second one is our human body itself, the biological processes of our body. Always, I'm surprised till today. And, the technology, this is bio. There is so much of technology and machines are embedded in our body. Our brain is a computer, and we have our eyes, camera. It's like a camera. The technology of camera has come from our eye, lenses of our eye. We view at things, and that inspired the invention of camera. And we also have a grinder in our stomach. We have a filter in our kidney, whatnot. So many things are there in our body, and which is nothing but technology, the machinery. We have a pump in the heart. Just observe our body parts, and so many electrical impulses which are running this body. The lapse of one electrical impulse, you are gone. Your heart stops. Your heart just stops. So there is technology within you. This is what I'm taking out, and somebody has observed it. Somebody has observed it, and the natural process which is happening within us, and it's come out as a machine. And if we observe the movement of air within our body, it's all observation, which means inventions basically. The air moves from our navel to the heart, to the throat, then to our tongue, then to our nose. This is how the air moves to sing. This is how it moves. Somebody noticed this and created a string instrument called Veena. And the electrical guitar also has come out from that. So there is so much of observation which we have not noticed. If we observe ourselves, I think we'll be knowing a lot. So the first bio, I think, is the human body. So we have to protect this. To protect this, we have to invent and observe the natural processes which are happening in the universe, on the land, air, wind, ourselves. And our interference with these natural processes. Unless we understand the natural process properly, how things function in this universe, the climate, everything, then only I think we can do something, we can invent something. We will become more sensitive. We will not do things what we are doing now. So with this, I'll conclude, and I wish the entire team grand success and the participants thorough learning experience. But the last and not the least, slogan of the world today: stay home, stay safe, take all precautions, suspect all, but at the same time respect all. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You've always been a good orator. And thank you for reiterating the fact that what human-induced environmental change can create, it can create a havoc all over the world. Thank you, ma'am, for always been our inspiration and encouragement. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, I kindly request our principal, sir, Dr. P. Ravindra Reddy, sir, to share his thoughts.
Very good morning, Srimati D. Sandhya Madam, Chairperson BNP of CBIT, Dr. Y. Rajashree, Head of the Department, the colleagues of the Biotechnology of CBIT, and the students, friends, delegates across the world and nation. I welcome you all for the one-week webinar cum FDP series on current progress and future prospects of biotechnology, organized by Department of Biotechnology of CBIT from 8th June 2020 to 13th June 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly disrupted the whole humankind in most of the countries and specific to India. And it's also affected a lot in education sector also. A large number of Indian students across the world face a lot of issues and the problems. The solution that they made the institutions were online teaching learning process. But this is not that easy and operative, and learning process affected most of the students who are in rural India. And those students registered in other countries face a lot of issues for the staying and come back to the origin state or country. The immediate measures are essential to ensure the continuity of learning in colleges and universities, the open sources and teaching learning through the Learning Solutions LMS with various digital platforms. That's the day we have been adapted and used for the delivery of teaching content more effectively. I congratulate the Department of Biotechnology of CBIT for organizing this 6-day FDP with eminent speakers. There is a more relevant requirements to the people in the country for the safety and more opportunities by this pandemic for the researchers to work and develop the solutions and product either to delay or to avoid the COVID-19. I request all the colleagues of the department and the students of biotechnology to develop an artificial intelligence powered novel coronavirus resistance testing kit to detect the novel coronavirus in short time is the need of the day. So today morning I've gone through the newspaper that the IIT Hyderabad is made such with the cost of rupees 600, and we can also have our thoughts and to develop for the same maybe next couple of months or days. More so, the researchers need to involve in the research investigations of various parameters to control and detect the advanced kits required rapid, affordable, and portable screening kit and nanobiosensor for rapid and early detection of the viruses. Another area to focus is on to develop new drugs and a vaccine for the COVID-19. The student and faculty of CBIT are always energetic and involving themselves in various research activities in their fields of domain, and in particular to develop the products for specific to COVID-19. They need to focus on using computational tools to design new drugs for fight against the coronavirus and its associated complications such as inflammatory cytokine storm or pneumonia and lung conditions. I think there is a need to develop and work on nasal sprays, adjuvant therapy to control the viral entry through the nose and spread through nasal droplets. In this regard, NIPER is working in the same. I think we can collaborate with them, work a part of it, or either we can come out with a nasal device which people can make use. I'll give some focus points, 1 or 2, 3. The designing new drug conditions using computer-aided drug design software. Research to propose new use or applications of already existing drugs. Novel drug formulations and novel drug delivery systems. I think our department can contribute any one of these 3 themes, and that would be great help to the society and our country, particularly the state of Telangana. I wish that the CBIT biotechnology students and faculty can make use of the opportunities given by COVID-19 and come up with the various solutions for the better life. I congratulate and appreciate the efforts made by all the faculty members, students involved, head of the Department of Biotechnology for organizing this 6-day FDP, benefited to almost 1,200 participants across the world, in particular all over the country, most of the states participating. I wish you all best of luck. Stay safe, stay better life. I wish you all good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your inspirational thoughts and motivation. Sir, you've always been a source of support for all of us at CBIT, sir. Thank you, and we would definitely look into the researchful activities that you want all of us to pursue in combating this COVID-19. Thank you very much, sir, for being there for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I request Head of the Department, Biotechnology, CBIT, Dr. Y. Rajeshri ma'am, to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Sumitra ma'am. I'm very much thankful to our Sanjasri ma'am and Principal sir for their valuable words towards this webinar series. And good morning, everyone. The COVID-19 pandemic, as you know, has affected educational systems worldwide, leading to the total closure of schools, colleges, and universities. As of 24th May, approximately 1.725 billion learners are affected due to the school closures in response to the pandemic. According to the UNICEF monitoring, 153 countries are currently implementing nationwide closures, impacting about 98.6% of the world's student population, which is a very huge number. In response to the COVID outbreak, there is an urgent need to accelerate development of diagnostics, vaccines, novel therapeutics, and repurposing of drugs, as mentioned by our previous speakers, for this novel coronavirus. In view of the limited current level of knowledge about the new virus, critical research questions need to be answered urgently, and ways have to be found to fund the priority research that can contribute to curtail this outbreak. As you all know, research is an important integral component of the response to be able to identify key knowledge gaps and research priorities, also thereby accelerating the generation of critical scientific information and the most needed medical products to contribute to the control of 2019 COVID emergency. So, to support the preparedness, readiness, and response for COVID 19, webinars are being conducted worldwide, which might work as a tool for developing diagnostics, vaccines, novel therapeutics, and also for gaining knowledge in various fields by sitting at home and being safe. There is a lot of industry academia participation in all these webinars, and hence I welcome you all to this 1 week webinar cum FDP series on current progress and future prospects of biotechnology, organized by the Department of Biotechnology, CBIT, in association with Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences from 8th June to 13th June, where sessions will be addressed by 12 eminent speakers from diverse fields. I would like to inform you that we had an overwhelming response to this webinar with 1151 registrations from across the world. In total, we have 996 participants from 25 states across India. We are also happy to see even international participation from countries like Italy, China, Hong Kong, Nepal, Pakistan, Doha, and Nigeria. Needless to say, the pandemic has transformed the centuries-old chalk talk teaching model to one driven by the technology. This disruption in the delivery of education is pushing policymakers to figure out how to drive engagement at scale while ensuring inclusive e-learning solutions and tackling the digital divide. A multi-pronged strategy is necessary to manage the crisis and build a resilient Indian education system in the long term. This has been the inspiration behind organizing this webinar. I would like to thank the management of CBIT, Srimati Sanjasri ma'am, Sri Bhaskar Reddy Garu, Advisor RCG, for their continuous support throughout the webinar. Also, I would like to thank our beloved Principal Ravinder Reddy sir for giving us this opportunity to organize this webinar series. I also would like to thank each and every one of my department colleagues for their restless efforts for making this webinar series dream come true. I wish every participant of this webinar a thorough learning experience. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rajeshri ma'am, for letting us know about the overwhelming response that we have received for this particular webinar come FDP series. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, I kindly request Professor Basaveswar Rao sir, Honorable Secretary, AP Academy Sciences, to deliver his thoughts and experiences on conducting such webinars during this pandemic. Over to you, sir.
Respected Malakonda Reddy Garu, President, members of governing body, CBIT family, experts, delegates, and participants of faculty development program on current progress and future prospects of biotechnology. Greetings from Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences. I am delighted and honored to be with you all on the occasion of this inaugural function of FDP program. On behalf of Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences, warm welcome to all participants of FDP organized by Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology. We are happy to be associated with CBIT, a reputed premier institute in South India having 41 years of legacy in academics. My wishes extended to Srimati D. Sanjasri, member and chairperson, Sri D. Bhaskar Reddy Garu, advisor, Dr. P. Ravinder Reddy Garu, Principal CBIT, for conducting the events of this kind for knowledge sharing, and especially during the pandemic period of COVID-19. COVID-19 crisis may well change our global outlook on education and research. We may have to learn new methods to prepare our young learners for their education and research. With students being able to gain access to knowledge and even learn a technical skill through a few clicks on their phones, tablets, and computers. Looking into the future, some of the most important skills that employers will be looking for will be creativity, communication, collaboration, alongside empathy, emotional intelligence, and being able to work across demographic lines of differences to harness the power of collective through effective teamwork. Educators across the world are experiencing new possibilities to do things differently with greater flexibility, resulting in potential benefits in accessibility to education for students across the world. We strongly believe that when there is quality higher education, there will be a research. When there is a good research, there will be a useful innovation. Where there are useful innovations, there will be industrial development. Where there is industrial development, will have employability. So wherever industry and employability is there, our students will be getting employment. So we need to strive for the quality education, research, and innovations. So our methodology of creating things should be through creative skills, critical thinking, and the ability of each and every student should be improved. We always say that we are proud to be Indians. Why we are always proud to be Indians? Because whatever scientific advancements are realized or implemented today have grassroots from Indian history. We always say that zero was invented from India, and father of medicine Charaka, and the Ayurveda was earliest school of medicine. Sushruta, the father of surgery. Whatever advancements or predictions, those days Indian saints, they have proved our ability to be good researchers. But our present condition, if you take standard gross innovative index as a standard, now we are far behind. Entire world is going ahead with innovations and research. Now our position is around 60, which should be again improved, which is only possible with the available human resources. When we train our human resources with quality higher education, then only there is a possibility to regain our supremacy in research. So we have to prove now that no pandemic can stop science, and only science can save the society. CBIT is now paving a path for sharing knowledge through this webinar, which is highly appreciated. I wish all the deliberations of faculty development program are fruitful. It's always a great pleasure for Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences to be associated with the premier educational institutions like CBIT in conducting such events now and also in the coming future. I hope the science and the knowledge shared in this webinar would enlighten young minds, students, and faculty who are working in the area of biotechnology and its associated areas. My best wishes to all faculty members, students of the Department of Biotechnology, CBIT, who are actively involved in making this event a grand success. Finally, I am happy to inform you that Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences would like to be associated with CBIT in the future events and make this journey a great learning experience. On behalf of Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences, I once again wish all the deliberations of this seminar will be successful, and the participants, dignitaries, and CBIT family will appreciate the deliberations of this seminar, and it will be beneficial to the youngsters. At the outset, I thank CBIT management for being associated with the Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences. Thank you one and all. Stay home, take precautions, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. And your words of wisdom will be echoed in our minds for a very long time to come, sir. Thank you very much. So to conclude this inaugural session, firstly, I would like to thank Srimati D. Sandhyashree ma'am, member chairperson DNP, and Bhaskar Reddy sir, advisor RCG, Dr. P. Ravinder Reddy sir, principal CBIT, Dr. Y. Rajashri ma'am, head Department of Biotechnology CBIT, Professor Basaveswar Rao sir, honorable secretary AP Academy of Sciences, my dear colleagues, students of CBIT, and the various participants who have registered so willingly for this particular webinar cum FDP series. So I thank all of you in making this inaugural session a grand success, and I wish you all the very best for the upcoming sessions from 12 eminent speakers. I wish and hope that this would be a thorough learning experience for each one of us, and I want you to enjoy each session thoroughly. Thank you very much. Today, I consider it my privilege to introduce Dr. Yusuf Akhtar, who's been working as Assistant Professor at Department of Biotechnology, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow, UP. Dr. Akhtar has completed his PhD in 2010 in biochemistry, and he's carried out work at European Molecular Biology Laboratory, Hamburg, Germany. Sir has held various positions where, he was recognized as CSIR Research Fellow from July 2004 to May 2007. He worked on characterization of therapeutically important genes from Mycobacterium tuberculosis at Laboratory of Molecular and Cellular Biology, Center for DNA Fingerprinting and Diagnostics, Hyderabad. He is EMBO Long-Term Fellow, DAAD Research Fellow. Sir has over about 77 publications, and he's attended more than 100 conferences, seminars, workshops across, and Sir has been invited as a guest speaker for more than 12 programs that have been conducted across the globe. Sir has been instrumental in developing courses because his interest includes teaching as well. So he developed courses such as modern biology, structural biology, biomolecules, genomics and proteomics, molecular evolution, molecular diagnosis, and so on. Sir has received various awards and recognition for his contribution in the field of biochemistry. Sir is recognized for his contribution for many projects, out of which the ongoing one includes a project proposal on targeting novel prokaryotic ubiquitin-like post-translation modification pathway for therapeutic inventions against Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And Sir has also guided and supervised many PhD students under the RD program of Central University of Himachal Pradesh. Sir has also co-supervised 2 PhD students who are currently working as assistant professors in HPU and other affiliated college in Amritsar. Sir has made many presentations at seminars and conferences, and Sir has received many awards, as I've told you a little earlier, amongst which the first one is Research and Academic Excellence Award 2019 in the discipline of Life Sciences and Environmental Science by Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow, India. The Top Peer Reviewer 2019 Award in Biology and Biochemistry, Top Reviewer for Multidisciplinary Sciences 2018, Publons Peer Review Award 2017, Publons Peer Review Award 2018, Sentinel of Science Award 2016. Dear participants, the list goes on. So indeed,
It's a great honor to have such an eminent personality on this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. I request you to begin the session.
So thank you, Dr. Sumitra, for giving this generous introduction. And and I want to thank organizers for inviting me for giving this talk in this faculty development program. And the topic, basically, I will talk about drug discovery. So it is more related to outcome of basically education. So outcome of education means we teach people science, and science should come up with some products and some processes which can be used for welfare of human society. So like everybody these days talking about and suffer from this COVID pandemic around the world. So my topic will be more related to how the drug discovery processes occurs and how we can address this COVID problem using discovering drugs against this virus. So I will not take much time, and I will start my presentation. So you will see I'm now opening my slides. Okay, so as we see, okay, so it is starting. You can see the slides?
Yes, sir, I can see the sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can, so this, the topic is, of my title is Drug Discovery Against SARS Coronavirus 2 and COVID-19. So SARS coronavirus, basically COVID-19 is the name of the disease, coronavirus disease. And 19 comes from 2019 because the epidemic which turned into pandemic was started in China in 2019. So SARS coronavirus 2, this is the name of the virus, and this COVID-19 is the name of disease. So SARS coronavirus means severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. So its name is like that. So because basically most of the people are suffering from acute respiratory syndrome. So there are two types of diseases. Some diseases are acute and other diseases are chronic. So acute diseases which appear at which appear means incidentally sometime, and chronic diseases are the diseases which are basically for lifelong, like diabetes, like hypertension, like other diseases which are people have whole during their whole life. So this acute thing means it appears suddenly, means so it causes means even some people who have no history of bronchitis or pulmonary problems, they are suffering from, because they have viral infection, and then when it severes, then basically many people are dying. We can see today even in India, 2 lakh, more than 2 lakh people are infected now. So let's focus to this topic, because if we talk about this disease, then it has a lot of aspects, like social aspects and medicinal aspects, etc., etc. So if we talk about coronavirus, like actually media is playing a very bad role in this whole thing, and like when this thing come into media, broken into media, then they were telling this is novel virus. So that is not the case. Actually, the coronavirus is as old as virology itself. So it is since long we know about coronaviruses, and all coronaviruses have a big family. So like at the moment 49 species are known, and out of those 49 species, 39 species are well characterized, and 10 species are people are still trying to characterize and trying to define their all characteristics. So there are some common features. These all are enveloped viruses. So enveloped viruses, I will discuss the structure of the virus in detail. Then you will know what is this envelope is made up of. So this is enveloped virus, and it has a positive sense nucleic acid and single stranded RNA. These all coronaviruses have this kind of constituents, and genome of these viruses are very small, because 26 to 32 kilobase pair, and the particles are roughly these particles are decorated with club or petal shaped surface projections, which basically you will see these are called spike proteins. So, and its name, basically this corona, is derived from its shape and size. You can see the picture of this virus, how it looked like, and when people have seen in electron microscope first time, then they say corona, because if we talk about sun, so in sun there is a outermost layer which is made of basically a lot of gaseous material, and a lot of we can see a lot of rays are coming out. So that outer surface of the sun is called as corona. So people when they saw this in electron microscope, they screamed that it looked like corona. So if we see, these viruses have a lot of similar viruses which are basically discovered in this in last 2-3 decades. So for example, there was a SARS coronavirus. It is, this one is SARS coronavirus 1, and that one was SARS coronavirus. So you can see this is the first virus of coronavirus family which was found to infect humans. Before that, and causing an epidemic like condition. So in Hong Kong in 2003, there was SARS disease. It was called as SARS disease. Like this one which we are facing now, we called it scientific community called this COVID-19. But the one which happened in 2003, scientific community named as SARS disease. That is, again, the name is the same, na? Severe acute respiratory syndrome. So this virus, and then in 2012 there was another virus which is called Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. So this Middle East respiratory syndrome and SARS coronavirus and SARS coronavirus 2, which happened now in 2019, these all are similar viruses, and these are like relatives. Like if we say like Gandhi family, like we say Rahul Gandhi, and then uska father Rajiv Gandhi, and then Indira Gandhi. So, and there are cousins, like Menka Gandhi is auntie of Rahul Gandhi, and then there is Varun Gandhi. Varun Gandhi is cousin of Rahul Gandhi. So this is to give an analogy, like we have family, we are similar. So our genetic constitutions are similar. Similarly, these three disease-causing viruses, other coronaviruses, means before 2003, those viruses mostly they were isolated from animals, and they were causing animal diseases. But this SARS coronavirus, which appeared, the first one which appeared in Hong Kong in 2003, that was basically first virus which was causing some significant disease in humans and from coronavirus family. So let's come to its structure in detail. So like I told that the outer envelope, these are called enveloped viruses. So if you could see my cursor, you can see the gray outer covering. Sorry. So the gray outer covering, that is basically representing the envelope, and this envelope is made up of lipid layer. So this is made up of lipid, and then you can see few proteins which are protruding out of this envelope, like this light green protein represented in light green, that this protein based on which its name is corona, basically, as I explained, it is called as spike glycoprotein. So you know why it is called spike, means very, very understandable point is because, you know, like these young boys, these teenager boys, what they do, they make a spike in their hairs. So it's something protruding out, something coming out, and that's why. So it is coming out when people see in electron micrograph, then they can see it is coming out. So they call it spike. So spike glycoprotein is there. Then there are other structural proteins like E protein, membrane protein, etc. And inside this envelope, so these few proteins, those are kind of spiking out from the envelope. And then inside the envelope there is you can see this light green in the left panel. If we see the representation, then the light green thing, which is basically capsid, and this capsid is made up of proteins, and all viruses have capsid, and inside capsid the viral nucleic acid is embedded. So like you can see, this RNA genome is sitting inside this capsid. So there are three major things. One is deep inside is nucleic acid, then outside that is the capsid protein, and then after that there is a lipid envelope, and in lipid envelope there are few proteins which are protruding out. So in the another graphical representation, you can see the core, which we can see blue, that is basically RNA, and this noodle like thing after the core, yellow noodle like thing, that is basically capsid of the virus. And after that, this green, sea green thing is enveloped, and the protruding out proteins are mainly spike glycoprotein, E protein, and M protein, membrane protein M. These three proteins which are protruding out from the envelope. So we know how the virus look like. So let's come how it infect basically. So to the human cells, the virus need two types of receptors. If then only this virus can go inside the cells, and these two receptors are ACE2 receptor, and the another one is TMRSS2 receptor. These two receptors which are present on the, I will tell you many types of cells which basically which have these two types of receptors on the surface. So these two receptors, if they are present, then virus will be recognized by these receptors, and basically with ACE2 receptor in the presence of TMRSS2 receptor, the spike protein which is present on the surface of virus, that interacts with the ACE2 receptor, and that help the virus in a receptor mediated endocytosis. So you can see what happens, what is the fate of this virus after that. So this receptor mediated endocytosis lead to the release of genome of this virus. So like I said, this genome was sitting inside after two layers. One is envelope, and then the capsid, and deep inside the RNA is there. So this RNA comes out, RNA reverse transcribe into cDNA, and then cDNA basically makes again RNA, and transcription and translation happens, and then these all other proteins, including the capsid protein and the envelope proteins, those are embedded in the envelope. These all are transcribed and translated, and then through the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, all these proteins are modified and post-translationally modified and processed. So these processing is required so that this virus can make assembly, and this part of the process we call it assembly of the virus. And then this virus is released. Basically this virus is released, and there could be two types of release mechanism. One is receptor mediated release, like you can see in this figure, and then another kind of also mechanism is there where it lies the cell and comes out. So now so same thing again in this figure again is shown, and like I talked before that these 2-3 viruses are of the same family, but they uses different type of receptors. Like in the case of SARS coronavirus 2, it uses ACE2 receptor, but the MERS, that is Middle East respiratory syndrome virus, that uses DPP4. So these there are many receptor proteins on the surface. And here one thing people should note, that this ACE2 receptor, which is also called as angiotensin converting enzyme 2, this receptor is there for some other purpose, because so this receptor is the same receptor which is used by beta blockers. So beta blockers are one class of compound which basically given as drugs to the patients of hypertension. Hypertension means high blood pressure. So if someone has high blood pressure, so these beta blocker compounds are given, and these beta blockers goes and bind to these receptors and basically impart signaling inside the cells, and the blood pressure in the arteries goes down. So that's why in the beginning people have thought that, so okay, let's later I will come back on the drug discovery part. So if we want to basically, if we want to design a drug against a disease, so now there will be two types of disease. One could be a metabolic disease, means it is our body itself has some impairment, some cellular system or molecular level, at molecular level something is not working, that causes metabolic disease. But infectious diseases are different. Infectious diseases are those diseases which are caused by germs, like this one. This one is a viral disease. So like bacterial disease, viral disease, or fungal disease, or diseases caused by worms. These all are the diseases which involve some microbial pathogen. So virus is also a microbial pathogen, but it is little bit different, because when it is outside the human cells, it is like a particle, it is not living. It needs viral entry, like I already explained in my previous slide. It needs viral entry in that sophisticated process, so that it can go inside and multiply, and then only it will replicate or cultivate it. So but in the case of other microbes, it is not the case. Like bacteria, fungi, they are living organism outside the cells also. So if we want to make a drug against these microbial pathogens, so what could be our strategy? Basically, either we will block the viral component, or we will block the host component. So viral component, any component which basically which kills it, means viral or bacterial or microbial component, we want to block, which can kill its, which can stop its life cycle. And host component, that biological component which basically help the virus in entry or in multiplication or in release, something, some process. So if we broadly divide these things, so like one could be a viral based viral, in this case it is virus, no? So viral based anti coronavirus drug discovery, or there could be a host based anti coronavirus discovery, and where we should focus on these 4 points. The compound which should be a drug, it should stop fusion of virus to the host cell. That is the first process. Then there is a second process, that it should stop the replication of the viral genome. It should stop the replication of the viral genome, or it should stop the disruption and assembly. It should disrupt, basically it should disrupt the assembly of the new virus particle, virion particles. Or the fourth part, it should block, that is stop the release of new virions out of the cells. So our whole drug discovery will be focused on these. So like I told, on which cells these infection occurs. So like I already told, these two receptor ACE2 and TMPRSS2, these two receptors, if they are present on any cells, these basically these viruses can infect. So so when recently, when people previously people were thinking only it can infect the pulmonary cells, but recently they came to know that there are many other cells where these two receptors are present, like in the nasal passage, like in the lungs, ileum, inside our alimentary canal, and on the heart, on eyes, liver, bladder, urinary bladder, kidney, pancreas, brain, prostate, and testis, placenta. So everywhere, in all these cells, these receptors occurs. Okay, so these wherever these receptors will be there, so they have shown this with these dots, where these receptors. So on these all receptors, this virus can get entry into the cells. So if we talk about because this media is doing a lot of mischievous things, and it is reporting all half-cooked, half-baked stories, and some enthusiasts, even there are some scientists, they are doing irresponsible things, and they are not doing the complete process, and they are screaming, and they are publicizing their discovery. It is not discovery, because drug discovery is the long-term affair. And if we look at how drug discovery happens, then it is basically, it takes, you can see there are different steps, like identifying the disease and then identifying the component. Like in my previous slide, I talked about host component and the microbial pathogen component. So you have to define, we call it drug targets. So first you have to define well the drug targets, and it takes time basically. Then we have to search for a drug candidate or drug lead. So this whole process, and then we need to go into in vitro testing and then in vivo testing. So like in vitro we do in the test tube, and then we do ex vivo, that is we tried that on cell lines, and then we go to the in vivo test, that is in vivo test is in the animal models, and then this compound goes for pharmaceutics expert for formulation and scale up of the, means in which form it will be given to the human being. And after this formulation step completes, then it goes to human clinical trial, and in human clinical trial there is a lot of statistics available, and when it pass these 3 to 5 phases of clinical trial, and before that there is a toxicity testing. So it is a long term affair. Means it can take 5 to 10 years at least to discover one successful drug. But like this coronavirus epidemic, it started in December, and people were started doing stunts in February, March itself, that they have discovered that Hyderabad University has discovered vaccine, or these Jaipur doctors, they have discovered drug. So this kind of stunt is basically not good, and actually people who are working seriously in the field, they are also, their concentration and their attention will be diverted, and it will only do harm. It will not yield into something very solid. So with this we can, so what is the way out? So first thing is if we want to discover, see, the vaccine thing is even more longer. Like even if we want to talk about vaccine and a lead vaccine molecule, then it will take at least 1 to 2 years to get preliminary data that one some antibody or some vaccine formulation that is a candidate. After we got the candidate, we need cytotoxicity testing, and then means safety testing, cytotoxicity safety testing, and then we need clinical trials. And for clinical trials, patients should be available. If we discover something, means we come up with some preliminary data that this could be the drug or this could be the vaccine, then we need also patient at that time. If the endemic or this pandemic will be finished by that time, then basically we will not able to test. We need COVID-19 patients, not other patients, to test that. Then only we can say it is working against this disease. For example, the 2003 epidemic happened in Hong Kong, which is called SARS. The disease is called SARS, and the virus was called as SARS coronavirus. This one again is not to be confused. This virus is called as SARS coronavirus 2, and this disease, which is ongoing pandemic, its disease is called COVID-19. So now what happened, if you check WHO website and SARS disease profile, you will find that they have written no drug is available, no vaccine is available. Because after 2003, when we have lead molecules as vaccine and drugs, we did not have any patients, because that happened in 2003 and never reappeared. And this time it is reappeared as a new virus, as a change virus, as a hybrid virus. So it is a complicated process, and when you have no patient, you cannot test it clinically basically, and then you cannot get approval, and you cannot even drug companies will not put money because there is no patients at all who will buy their drugs. So what is the quick way basically? So quick way is repurposing, and there are few different types of repurposing. I will talk about them in the next slides, but here you see in recent media reports there are few molecules which are touted as drug against this COVID-19, but actually the status is like that. Let me explain you. So like USA President Donald Trump, he said chloroquine and hydrochloroquine, he touted this as a drug, and he don't know about medicine, even ABC, how drug discovery happens. Neither he is a biomedical scientist, nor he is a medicine person, medical doctor. So he should take good suggestions and advice from his advisors before putting these things in media. So basically chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, these two drugs are anti-malarial, and hydroxychloroquine is also anti-rheumatoid arthritis. So the advantage, if we use already the drug which is already in market, we have an advantage, and that advantage is we don't need to do cytotoxicity safety tests. We need to do clinical trial, but we don't need to do safety trials. We need to do clinical trial for in the patients of that particular disease. Like in this case, like these drugs are touted, these drugs are well-known drugs against malaria and arthritis. So we need to do clinical trials for COVID-19 now, but cytotoxicity and safety trials, cytotoxicity testing and safety trials, we don't need to do. So 3-4 years we can save basically. But if we look at so it needs time to test it basically in clinical trials. So there is no evidence, and politicians and media, they don't understand science, and they should understand, otherwise they will miss the point and common public will not able to know the truth. So there is no definitive evidence that these have antiviral activity. Yes, these molecules were found, but only in the in vitro testing. These molecules were found to be effective against against viral entry. So they disrupt binding of virus to the receptor, and the other good effect they show is calming down the immune response. Because what happened when the virus, so I didn't describe that. When the virus enters in the pulmonary cells, there is a huge immune response. So our own body produce a lot of immune response because of viral infection. When virus increase the numbers, then basically when they multiply and come out, then they produce a lot of immune response, our body, to save our body. But what happened, this immune response create a kind of immunological flood, and this flood basically leads to autophagy and autoimmunity kind of situation, where our own immune system, immune cells and immune effectors, they start eating up our pulmonary cells. So these molecules are found effective to suppress this immune response. So in a way it can help, but this is a general response, and as such pinpointed antiviral activity is not achieved by these molecules. So it needs clinical trial, then only one can say that these are the drugs. And another molecule is like remdesivir. So this remdesivir is basically antiviral compound which was discovered again against Ebola virus. So Ebola virus is also an RNA virus which caused a lot of deaths in Africa. But the good thing is its infectivity is pretty low if we compare with the SARS coronavirus and SARS coronavirus 2 also. So its infectivity is very low. That's why it was contained in 1 or 2 countries in Africa and never become an epidemic or pandemic kind of situation. But it is very lethal virus basically. So all these RNA viruses have viral replication machinery similar. So it blocks the RNA transcription. And also there are chances that it may also suppress immune response, same like chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. But these claims are yet to be tested in the lab as well as in clinical trials. Then another molecule which is touted as a coronavirus anti-coronavirus drug is favilavir. Favilavir. Its name is favilavir, and this is a known drug against influenza. In China and Japan, they have approved. So approved because I wrote approved between inverted commas, because there is no clinical trials data available from China and Japan. Why they means what should be the basis of this approval? So that is not publicly available. So till these data are publicly available, we have no idea. But this is influenza kind of virus. Means it is similar to that virus. So it is possible that it can work against it, but still it needs clinical trial to be called as a drug against coronavirus and to be 100% sure. So if we look another molecules, there are a lot of molecules which are in hand now. So like drugs and biomolecules previously reported to active against related coronavirus, like I said, it is called as drug repurposing. So like SARS coronavirus, so there are 98 drugs and natural compounds which are available, and I have given these clinical trials, partial clinical trials link where the data is available for partial clinical trial against SARS coronavirus. So SARS coronavirus means that previous virus. So only partial clinical trial was done because the SARS patients are not available basically. Then there is the second another group of compound which are having 25 targets. So again, remember how I defined host-based targets and microbial pathogen-based drug targets. Drug targets means those components which we need to block. So there are 393 substances which were able to interact 25 targets of 6 different coronaviruses, including these 3 coronaviruses which I talked earlier in my introduction. Okay, so these are candidate compounds. Then there are compounds which inhibit autophagy. So there are 406 compound that inhibited and 802 compound that activated autophagy. So these all are candidates, and it needs a lot of research and trials. Then we will know out of these which one could be pinpointed to be act as drug. So chloroquine plus azithromycin. These two are basically, one is anti-parasite or anti-malarial chloroquine, like we talked, these Professor Donald Trump's choice of drug. So this is Plasmodium, and the azithromycin is antibiotic or antibacterial. So these both also have both have anti-autophagy activities. So these also can help in this disease. But again, detailed investigation is needed. Then another class of compound is human proteases. Basically, there are a lot of, like I showed, when the viral proteins are translated, then basically these are processed in the host or human cells, endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus. There are a lot of human proteases. So there are 12 human proteases which help these viral proteins to become mature, and so that the assembly of virus could be possible. So these 12 human proteases could be good drug targets. If we block those, then basically SARS coronavirus spike protein cannot be proteolytically processed, and if it will be not proteolytically processed, it will not be decorated on the envelope of the coronavirus, and if it will be not decorated on the envelope of the coronavirus, it will not able to interact with the receptor, and then there will be no viral entry. So these are also good candidate drug targets. Then there is a last one, drug targeting receptor mediated endocytosis and viral budding. We have seen there are 4 steps, so the first one and the last one. So first one is these receptors which help. So which are these receptors? These are first 2 receptors are those where these viral proteins interact with the mammalian proteins, and then there are receptor mediated endocytosis. Then there are other human proteins involved, and then at the last step, when the virus is budding out of the cell, then another set of proteins, which are human proteins, are used in this process. So there are 50 human proteins they have shortlisted, which basically several of these proteins such as AAK1 and GAK1 are druggable. So druggable means against them drugs can be designed. So like 50 human proteins they have shortlisted, against which if we design inhibitors, there is a potential that we can get some activity against the disease. So with this, I would like to thank the organizers, and I would like to thank my research team and my institutions where I worked, and the agencies from where we get funding. And with this, I want to give you all the best, and may your future will be bright, and you will become a very good entrepreneur or a technologist or scientist, and you will discover, and you will do the work of nation building. You will make our nation strong. And with this, all the best, and thank you very much.
Dear participants, it's indeed a rare opportunity that we get to listen to such eminent speakers. And I personally thank Dr. Yusuf Akhtar for accepting our invitation and being a part of this webinar and enlightening all of us with his profound knowledge and words of wisdom. Sir, your session was full of passion and it is priceless. We consider it a great privilege to have listened to you today, sir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences and enlightening us with the knowledge. Thank you very much, sir.